Have you ever wondered what was the most challenging vehicle that came through our shop? Right now I'm sitting in a 2007 Ferrari Scaglietti 612 that John just completed, and I wanted to kind of recap this installation in case somebody else with this vehicle or is trying to do the same thing, or another shop has a client with the same vehicle trying to do the same thing. This was definitely one of the most technically challenging installations I think we've done in a long time. I did a lot of research before starting this project, and I could not find a single example of anybody having installed a CarPlay stereo in this car when equipped with the factory navigation radio.
I suspected there might be some basic vehicle data going through the radio. Once we had a chance to see the car in person, this was confirmed just checking through the settings menu. I advised the client he would lose access to these settings, and he had no issue with that.
Before we even decided to tackle this, we did an investigation. We got the car here. John took it apart, looked at how the factory audio system worked, and sure enough, if we disconnected the factory stereo, we would get errors on the dashboard over here. Right now I just have the ignition on, that's why you see a couple of things right there. We called the dealership and just confirmed that would be the case. And, I'm trying to remember, did we actually start it? I don't think we did start it without the display or without the radio disconnected. I think we called the dealership first because we wanted to find out if there would be any issue removing that radio. And the dealership is actually who told us, yes, you would have errors. And that's basically what I found just reading through forums online. We thought about it, and the original unit had a kind of standard doubled-in receiver with a separate display. And there was a display cable. And John had the idea that, we can probably just get rid of the display, keep the original radio back there, and do some type of receiver that has a hideaway brain with a separate display. So we decided to use the Kenwood DAX-800XR for a couple of reasons, mainly for sound quality purposes and the installation method. The singleton chassis is hidden under the dash here somewhere. I don't think I have any pictures of that, unfortunately, but that singleton receiver is tucked up under there. And then we did do a Helix V Eighteen DSP amplifier. John replaced all of the speakers except for the center channel with the Morel Virtus Nano carbons. So everything's running actively, including the factory subwoofers. There's one in the passenger footwell area, as well as the one in the rear deck. Because this particular receiver is really meant more for modern vehicles with the iDataLink APX kits, it doesn't have a volume knob, and that was something I was concerned about in trying to use the volume on here. It's it's a touch panel. We weren't able to retain the steering wheel controls that the car was equipped with because the original radio is still in line, and so these actually still work. If he accidentally hits the mode button, that's going to change the source. Just to keep it not confusing, we didn't try to connect to both of them. So you can see right in the cluster it says no CD. We left the original radio on CD mode. So again, yeah, no volume knob, no easy volume control. So I wanted to have a master volume knob. So John used the URC 0.1 as volume, flush mount the USB-C, and then that's an SRC for the match that we ended up using. Because the factory subwoofers were such low impedance, I believe he ended up having to wire those in series for a 1 ohm load. But this car sounds phenomenal. I'm super impressed with it. I don't know that John would want to do another full audio system like this in one soon. He had to custom fabricate mounting adapters for every single speaker, and just accessing the speaker locations in the dash I know was a challenge. And it was just a very tedious installation. Originally, he was just going to flush mount the USB and the control knob in the original ashtray, but it was so brittle that there was no way he could repair or retain it. So he just made that new plate, and so many parts of this car are like that. It's just, you have to be so careful working on these older vehicles. And it's almost like they were designed by somebody who has never worked on a car. Like, they're not made to be serviceable. There's just so much that you have to disassemble to replace one of the dash speakers. It's just insane. Like, I could get John to rant about the amount of steps and how tedious this car was.
One of the areas John spent days on was this insert. We estimate he spent at least 5 solid days in this one area. I originally envisioned just having the master volume knob and USB-C here, but then John reminded me there wouldn't be any sub-level control from the head unit because we're running toslink out. We discussed putting the conductor there, but I was really against it because I thought it would be too big and not as intuitive as 2 separate dedicated knobs. And it would look out of place in this interior. I really wanted to keep the knob simple with a black finish, no lights, so it blended in. The other part of the issue we ran into is this control knob for the Up1FX is not tailored for a clean install. The SRC has a very small knob, and it's really not designed to be separated from the enclosure. And when you do separate it, there is a bulky circuit board that needs to fit behind the panel. Part of the redesign included creating a chamfered opening for the tiny knob and a notch on the back side to hold the circuit board in place. Although we invested a lot of time in this one area, we both feel it was well worth the effort. Not only does it look great, but it's also intuitive and functional. The one area I thought would take a lot of time was creating the bezel for the Kenwood DAX-800XR. That was one of the last steps in the process. I think with all the practice designing the various speaker mounting rings and the insert, creating the bezel actually ended up being the easiest part of this job. John uses precise measurements with calipers and draws everything out in Shaper 3D. He usually does a test print in PLA to confirm fitment and then finishes the process using ASA. Believe it or not, we actually have another Ferrari 612 scheduled to come in. That one is more like the first one we did that has the single-din opening, but I'm going to try to document the process, and most likely John is going to do a similar installation where he will 3D print a bezel for this install. Look for that coming soon. Hopefully that will help answer some questions on how he does this process.
Ultimately, we're very happy with how it came out, and if you do have one of these vehicles with the factory navigation, you can replace the radio with something like this, but there's no interface for the factory amplifier. So the factory amp is still online, factory head unit's still online. You're not going to keep your audio controls on the steering wheel. You're going to have to do an aftermarket amp, aftermarket speakers, and it takes quite a bit of time to replace the speakers in the car. I mean, I guess you could reuse the factory speakers, but they're basic paper cone. You'd have to, go to an aftermarket, probably 2-ohm compatible amp. I have to check and see what the impedance is on the factory speakers. I can check that, and I'll put that in the video here. Challenging vehicle, but doable. And I'm sorry I didn't get footage of the process, but he needed 100% focus on this, so I was not interrupting him or hovering over him throughout the process. These are the factory speakers. There were 6.5s in the back with a separate tweeter. These are 2-ohm. These little guys were rear shelf or dash, I forget.
These were dash.
These were the dash, and I think it actually said 2-ohm on the label. Yeah, 2-ohm, and then these were in the rear shelf, and these were 3.3, it looks like. And then to reuse the factory subwoofer, you actually had to take, one of them had an amp built into it. That's what that is?
Yep. That's the rear deck, I believe.
That's what I thought. Yeah, I thought that was the rear shelf subwoofer.
Yep.
And then I forget, what was the impedance of the subwoofers?
I don't remember. I think they were
too low to use on the V18. We had to do a separate amp. I'm going to check my emails.
They were probably a half ohm
I think that's what it was. I think they were a half ohm each, and then you wired them in series. So we're running a 1 ohm on the Up1FX. Yeah, that was why we had to do the separate amp on the subwoofer. And then I was mentioning the video just how tedious various aspects of this installation were. I was thinking the front dash were probably the most difficult.
Yes.
Anything you want to say about that process?
Don't do it. The best way to probably handle it, if you're going to do it, is to completely take the dash off. You have to, really.
Well, you try to, right? But there was something that was either stripped or not loosening up for you.
I had other challenges, so I had to
work around.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But normally you would just take the whole dashboard off and the instrument cluster out.
Yep.
all that.
Steering wheel, everything off.
And then you just had to design speaker mounting adapters for all of them, right?
Yep. Yep, they're all different.
Anything else you want to say? Final words?
No, I mean, it came out really nice, but it was a challenge.
Yeah, I said this was probably the most technically challenging vehicle that I can remember us doing in a long time.
Yep.
But I think you did a great job.
Thank you.
Yeah. One thing I want to mention is when you are using the toslink on this particular radio, you do lose access to all of the audio functions within the stereo itself, because they're assuming you're doing everything through the DSP amp, or that it's not possible. I don't know how Stinger's doing that, because that's how your original
I think there's another chip in there
that allows it to pass through.
In addition to the audio upgrade, John also installed a front and rear park assist camera. We used the Kenwood's CMOS 740 HD LP. This is Kenwood's HD camera. One of the great things about Kenwood is the ability to trigger the front camera simply from switching out of reverse gear. You can also manually trigger either camera from the touchscreen controls. Additionally, the client's existing park assist sensors remain fully functional. John also designed and fabricated an amp rack to house the V18 DSP and Up One effects. He created a cover panel to mirror the existing passenger side access panel. Our entire goal with this vehicle was uncompromising sound quality combined with functionality and ease of use, executed in a clean, minimalistic fashion that complements the existing vehicle aesthetics. For those of you wondering how long a job like this actually takes, I can tell you John spent a solid 2 months working on this vehicle. Seeing as only 3,025 of the Ferrari 612 Scagliettis were built between 2004 and 2012, I don't know how many more 612s we'll come across. This is a very special vehicle, and this was truly an amazing opportunity for us to learn and expand our horizons. We are grateful to our client not only for the opportunity, but also for trusting and believing in us to accomplish something that, as far as we can tell, had never been done before.
Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this content, please hit that like and subscribe, and I will see you all next time.